Today's Catholic Mass readings and Gospel reflection. Wednesday, October 25, 2023. Feast Day of Saint Daira. First reading is taken from the book of Romans chapter 6, verses 12 to 18. Brothers and sisters, sin must not reign over your mortal bodies so that you obey their desires. And do not present the parts of your bodies to sin as weapons for wickedness, but present yourselves to God as raised from the dead to life, and the parts of your bodies to God as weapons for righteousness. For sin is not to have any power over you, since you are not under the law but under grace. What then? Shall we sin because we are not under the law but under grace? Of course not. Do you not know that if you present yourselves to someone as obedient slaves, you are slaves of the one you obey, either of sin, which leads to death, or of obedience, which leads to righteousness? But thanks be to God that, although you were once slaves of sin, you have become obedient from the heart to the pattern of teaching to which you were entrusted. Freed from sin, you have become slaves of righteousness. Responsorial Psalm. Our help is in the name of the Lord. A reading from our Holy Gospel according to St. Luke. Chapter 12. Verses 39 to 48. Jesus said to his disciples, "Be sure of this. If the master of the house had known the hour when the thief was coming, he would not have let his house be broken into. You also must be prepared, for at an hour you do not expect, the Son of Man will come." Then Peter said, "Lord, is this parable meant for us or for everyone?" And the Lord replied, "Who, then, is the faithful and prudent steward whom the master will put in charge of his servants to distribute the food allowance at the proper time? Blessed is that servant whom his master on arrival finds doing so. Truly, I say to you, he will put him in charge of all his property. But if that servant says to himself, 'My master is delayed in coming,' and begins to beat the men servants and the maid servants, to eat and drink and get drunk, then that servant's master will come on an unexpected day and at an unknown hour, and will punish the servant severely and assign him a place with the unfaithful. That servant who knew his master's will but did not make preparations nor act in accord with his will shall be beaten severely, and the servant who was ignorant of his master's will but acted in a way deserving of a severe beating shall be beaten only lightly. Much will be required of the person entrusted with much, and still more will be demanded of the person entrusted with more." Reflection from our Holy Gospel. Much will be required of the person entrusted with much. In former days in the Philippines, landed people like the hacienderos had numerous servants. Usually, these servants were put under the charge of the head servant or mayordomo, head of the house. The head servant was entrusted by the master of the house with management of his big household and large property. The steward in the Gospel reading is like the mayordomo, the servant who has been promoted because of his trustworthiness. He is appointed to manage the resources of the community in the absence of his master. A reward awaits the steward if he proves himself faithful to his task. He will be appointed to assume greater responsibilities upon his master's return. But if the servant abuses his authority and behaves like a gluttonous and drunken fool, he will be punished severely. Jesus commands Christian community officials to be like faithful and prudent stewards during his absence, before his glorious return. Leaders, when they are faithful and vigilant, are like good shepherds who take care of the flock. The pastoral letter of Peter exhorts the presbyters or overseers of the Christian community. Tend the flock of God in your midst. Opening parenthesis. Overseeing. Not by constraint but willingly. Do not lord it over those assigned to you, but be examples to the flock.